In this video, we'll show you how to change the struts on your Ram 1500. You can find them on CarParts.com via the link in the description. For safety reasons, we strongly suggest watching our video on how to jack your Ram 1500 safely. Using a ratchet and a 13mm socket, unscrew the bolt, securing the brake hose metal hose bracket. To be able to replace a strut on your vehicle, you must disengage the upper control arm ball joint from the wheel knuckle. Brush the upper control arm ball joint retainer nut and spray it with penetrating oil. Using a 21mm wrench, loosen the holding nut. Use a ratchet and a 10mm socket to keep the ball joint from rotating. It is now time to remove the outer tie rod from the knuckle. Brush the outer tie rod holding nut and spray it with penetrating oil. Using a 24mm wrench, unscrew the outer tie rod holding nut without removing it completely. Restrict the rotation of the ball joint using a ratchet and a 10mm socket. Remove the ABS sensor cable from its fasteners. You can use a screwdriver to help you. If you do not have a ball joint puller, a tool specifically designed for this task, take a hammer and hit the knuckle. The ball joint should come out of the knuckle. Then remove the outer tie rod. Knock on the knuckle to separate the ball joint from the upper control arm. On this component, this is often a difficult step as both components completely seize up. Using a ball joint puller, a specific tool for carrying out this job, release the ball joint. You need to support the brake disc with a jack to make it easier to remove the upper control arm ball joint retainer nut. Finish unscrewing the nut. If necessary, pry with a crowbar to facilitate handling. Then remove the ball joint from the wheel knuckle. Take a zip tie and hang the wheel knuckle to prevent it from falling. Brush the bolt holding the strut foot, then spray it with penetrating oil. Then use a 24mm wrench, a ratchet, and a 21mm socket to prevent the bolt from rotating, and unscrew the nut of the strut foot. Finish unscrewing the nut by hand. Finish unscrewing the bolt using a ratchet. Extract the bolt from the foot of the strut. Now you need to unscrew the 3 nuts on the upper strut mount. Using a fork, unclip all the wiring harness clips on the upper strut mount retaining nuts. Brush the 3 nuts holding the strut mount bearing and spray them with penetrating oil. Then unscrew the 3 upper strut mount retaining nuts using a 16mm ratchet ring wrench. Remove the nuts. The strut is now free. You can now remove the strut foot from its slot. Press the wheel knuckle to create the space needed to remove the strut foot. Take your time. This is a long and tedious operation. You can now extract the strut. Our truck is equipped with strut spacers. You will need to remove them so they can be reinstalled on the new struts. Unscrew the 3 spacer retaining nuts using a ratchet, an extender, and a long 17mm socket. Remove the nuts with a magnetic extender. Using a marker, trace a line which will allow you to position the spacer correctly when reassembling. Then remove the spacer. You can order the struts used in the video on CarParts.com via the link in the description. Take your new strut. Unscrew the 3 nuts holding the strut mount bearing. Then install the spacer. Then screw the nuts back on until they make contact. Finish tightening using a torque wrench. Pass the strut through the upper control arm, then install the upper part first. Press the lower control arm to gain space for the strut foot. Use a crowbar and pry and align the control arm bushing with the bolt insertion hole. Meanwhile, reinsert the bolt. You can use a plastic mallet. Then screw back on the nut until it's tight. Finish tightening using a torque wrench. Using the jack, lift the wheel knuckle assembly so as to roughly screw a mount bearing retaining nut. Next, screw the 3 nuts that hold the mounts back on until there is contact. Tighten the nuts with a torque wrench. Then reattach the clips. For great content, our best price, and fast shipping, download the CarParts.com app now. You can now cut the zip ties with wire cutters. Using the jack, lift the wheel knuckle unit so that the upper control arm ball joint can be returned to its slot. You can also use a crowbar to help you. During this operation, you will be intervening on the front axle of your car, so it is advisable to perform a wheel alignment afterwards. Use a plastic mallet to fit it into place. Screw the nut of the upper control arm ball joint back on. Remove the jack. Using a wire brush, scrub the knuckle. Then apply silicone grease to the flat part that will be in contact with the sleeve of the outer tie rod. Do not grease the inside of the cone. Put the outer tie rod back in place in the knuckle. Put the nut supplied with the new part in place and tighten it using a 24mm wrench. Restrict the rotation of the ball joint using a ratchet and a 10mm socket. Finish tightening using a torque wrench. You can now complete the tightening of the upper control arm ball joint with a torque wrench. Next, add the recommended clamping angle. Replace the ABS sensor cable in its slots. Screw the brake hose mounting bracket back on. Then you will be able to put the wheels back on your vehicle. Put your truck back on the ground and properly fix the wheels in place. Operation complete.
Quality parts, priced right.